Hello, I'm back from my animation part of the game framework. So the animation is kind of big, so I feel like I'm just going to type it out. You can follow along and then I'll explain it after, as it will make more sense once you see the entire thing. So let's start off by making our class. Animation is equal to function. We're going to pass in width, height, row, column, limit, image, src for source, fps, columns, and rows. So now we say if fps is equal to null, or fps is greater than or equal to 33, this dot fps is equal to 1, else this dot fps is equal to 33 divided by fps. Next, we say we're going to set the frames per second counter. So this dot fps counter is equal to 0. This dot frame is equal to 0. This dot width is equal to width. This dot height is equal to height. This dot row start is equal to row. This dot column start is equal to column. This dot row is equal to row. This dot column is equal to column. This dot rows is equal to rows. This dot columns is equal to columns. Then we're going to say if limit is equal to null or limit is equal to 0, this dot limit is equal to 99999. Let's just put in a bunch of 9s here. Else this dot limit is equal to limit minus 1. This dot limit count is equal to 0. This dot image image is equal to new image. This dot image image dot source is equal to img src. This dot position is equal to new vector 2 0. This dot crop position is equal to new vector 2 0. I'm passing 1 0 in here, into the vector 2. I'm gonna pause for a second. So what I want to do is, if I pass 1 0 in, I want to set both x and y to 0. So let's go back up to our vector 2, and let's add a case statement up here, or not a case, an if x is not equal to null and y is equal to null, then this dot x is equal to x and this dot y is equal to x. So now we set both variables to x, and then we'll continue on with these other if statements. That way I can pass one number in for x and get it applied to both x and y. And I probably want to do that for set 2. So we'll say if x is equal to null and well, actually we could do that down here. If x is not equal to null and y is equal to null, then let's make our blocks here. Then we say this dot x is equal to x and this dot y is equal to y. So that we set our set function and our x and y equal to just whatever the first number, our only number. If there's no y input, we set them both to x. So now let's go back down here to our animation, and let's start to make a couple of the functions. So our first function will be this dot set limit is equal to function limit this dot limit is equal to L minus 1. Let's make our next function, which is this dot set row is equal to function num. And inside of there, we will say this dot row is equal to num, and this dot row start is equal to num. Now our next function is the same thing except for column, so this dot set column is equal to function num, and we can say this dot column is equal to num, and this dot column start is equal to num. Our next function is going to be the update, so we say this dot update is equal to function position, and in here it's a somewhat short update, so we say this dot position is equal to pause first of all. Next we say this dot crop position is equal to x. Oh, sorry, crop position dot x is equal to this dot width multiplied by this dot column. Now we say this dot crop position dot y is equal to this dot height. Interesting. Apparently I spelled height wrong somewhere, so let's find out where. Very important. So fix that height up there if you haven't already. And we need to multiply that by this dot row. Next we do an if statement. If this dot column is equal to null, or this dot columns is equal to 0, then we're going to execute the following code. This dot columns is equal to this dot image dot width divided by this dot image dot width, and this dot rows is equal to this dot image dot height. Looking over this, it looks like something I came back and messed with. No, it's right. So this is not image, by the way. So it's this dot image dot width divided by this dot width, and then this dot image dot height divided by this dot height. There we go. Spelling it wrong. Is there still another height somewhere? Oh, that's not good. Inside of our intersects function, we have height in there, which will cause an error, so let's go back and fix that. And let's see if we have any more. Alright, no more. So, yeah. Now we're done with our update function, and all that's left is a draw function. So let's create our draw function. This dot draw is equal to function. We're going to take in a context. So if this dot FPS counter is equal to 0, and then we're going to do another if this dot limit count is less than this dot limit, we say this dot limit count plus plus this dot column plus plus, and then if this dot column is greater than or equal to this dot columns, this dot row plus plus this dot column is equal to 0. If this dot row is greater than or equal to this dot rows, then this dot row is equal to this dot row start. This dot column is equal to this dot column start, and this dot limit limit count is equal to 0. So now outside of our second if, we need to put an else. Else this dot column is equal to this dot column start. This dot row is equal to this dot row start, and this dot limit count is equal to 0. Now outside of all of our ifs and before we end our draw, we're going to do the next part of the draw, or the actual drawing. So this is the most important part. It's going to be taking our cropping image concept and this is how it's done. So we do ctx dot draw image. This dot image will be the image drawn. This dot crop position. Crop position dot x. This dot crop position dot y. This dot width. This dot height. This dot position dot x. This dot position dot y. This dot width. This dot height. Then we'll say this dot fps counter plus plus, and if this dot fps counter is greater than or equal to this dot fps, this dot fps counter is equal to 0. So that is it for our animation. It was quite a bit, and this video is pretty long for explaining. So in the next video I will explain each part, and if we find any errors then we'll fix them there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.